we were not directly informed, but through eavesdropping, we heard that there was a bunch of positive cases of COVID in my apartment building where I live with my parents. And so I was like, oh shit, like that's not good. So I started taking pictures, around the neighborhood because people were like, yeah, everyone's disappearing. Like there's people who we haven't seen in weeks, or they went to the hospital for like the flu and they just never came back. Yeah, my name is Kayvon Jackson. I'm the current director of photography for the Columbia Chronicle. I had no idea what the hell I was doing with photography. I would like take pictures of my friends and be like, cool, here's a half decent portrait, let's post it on Instagram. Or like I attempted to go the street photography route, which also didn't, which now that I look back at it was more of a journalistic approach, because street photography is just like, oh, you take a picture and then you continue on. Like I would just like sit there, talk with the person, be like, oh, can I take a picture by chance? And if they say yes or no, okay, great. If not, cool, we'll move along. So the idea of photojournalism never scratched the surface. I was just documenting the world as I see it, and then that happened, leading to my path in journalism. I'm in it now, and I think what also helped was finding people that actually fit my creative vision, and not even creative vision, they fit the route in visual storytelling that I wanted to go with, which was kind of like localizing major stories. Like, at the time, it was the shooting of a 13-year-old. Okay, how does that apply to everybody else who doesn't live in Little Village? Well, how does that apply to me? I live on the north side, but I'm from the south side. How does that apply to, the people that live on the far north side who have no idea where Little Village is and can't point it out on a map? Like localizing stories like that is what made it important.
In the early morning hours of March 29th, 2021, 13-year-old Adam Toledo was fatally shot by Chicago police officer Eric Stillman in the 2400 block of South Sawyer Avenue following a foot chase. On April 15th, Chicago's Civilian Office of Police Accountability released Officer Stillman's body camera footage, which showed the fatal foot chase and sparked protests across the city. On April 16th, Jackson photographed a protest in Logan Square where protesters were
calling for justice for Adam Toledo, Anthony Alvarez, and a lot of other victims of police violence in Chicago.
Several days later, Jackson photographed a peace walk in Little Village at the site of Toledo's fatal shooting.
We met at the place where Adam died, 24th and Sawyer, 2400 block of South Sawyer, which is right tucked in behind what I think it's like a middle school. There's people flooding in, divvy bikes, bicycles, broken skateboards, and there's people who are still like roughed up and like beat up from like the other protests in Logan Square for Adam. So then they're showing up, and I'd never been to the spot where Adam was shot, and I show up and I'm kind of like, expecting to see, kind of just, like a space where it's like still looking how it looked when he was shot, but then I show up and there's wings, with Adam's silhouette, there's wings, and there's flowers, there's like soccer balls, there's like, pictures of Adam, there's all these things, there's like a little umbrella hanging off the fence, and that umbrella was kind of like shielding him from the light, or keeping the area dry. And it was very, very surreal because I have never been, like, in all the times that I've been alive, like I've only been to like a handful of crime scenes, both for like the Chronicle and for my own stuff, because I've been I live in like a semi decently rough, better now neighborhood, but like I'm used to seeing crime scenes. But I think what was different about this is that like I show up and I'm kind of like, okay, here I am, but then as soon as I show up, that like the body cam footage just like replayed in my head, like I'm looking down towards the alley towards the north, and I can perfectly spot out where the squad car was coming down. You can see where Adam was running. You can see where and like you're looking at this video and you're kind of like and like the video is playing back in my head, and it's sort of like this like out of body experience. Here in like in this spot, there's not only this like broken fence where he was shot and killed. There's like a flower bed next to someone's house in this alleyway, and the flowers are like freshly blooming because it's spring. The weather's nice, people are wearing shorts and pants and like short sleeve t-shirts, and it wasn't like, into play into that, it wasn't even like this like gloomy day. Like it was like bright and sunny, and like partly cloudy, if I'm remembering right. And like people were there not in grief but in celebration of life, kind of like how like black folks do for funerals. You know, like it's sad, but then we're gonna celebrate that person's life, and that's what it turned into. It was like a celebration of life. It was just like, you know, yeah, Adam's gone, but we're gonna celebrate the time that he was here, and it was amazing. They had like, you know, there was food, there was like celebrations, there was dancing. There was these like Aztec dancers who came and they danced, and you know, there was mariachi band, you know, and then after that, you know, we took to the streets, and then people started marching down 24th Street, and we did a giant loop essentially because we went down 24th past Sawyer up to Kedzie, all the way down to like California, I think. As we came back, like you just said, we came back in around the alley, and you know, we stopped in one big moment that was kind of like, you know, not even good visually, but just kind of like setting the scene, like like in like a community aspect, is that we stopped right. I think that's 26 in Christiana or whatever that next block is going west. The little village, you know, the Arc.
The Arc, yeah.
Benitez La Palita. And you know, like having that with the sunset in the background and kind of like people circling around and, you know, kind of just celebrating and grieving was very powerful, because not only were people quiet, like there was not a single sound. Like I remember there was like this bus there, like down the street, bus driver turned off the engine. You know, like people turned off their cars because they wanted like complete silence, and it wasn't like out of respect. It was kind of just like, you know, we want to like cherish the moment, and like, you know, not a single cell phone was up, it was just people living in the moment and kind of just cherishing a life that was ended shortly. And you know, there were some photographers there who kind of used that to their advantage, which is a whole different story. But I don't think I took a single picture during that like moment of silence. Yeah, but there were some who were like completely like getting in people's faces and just like, and I'm like, that's not what you're here for. If you pride yourself in being a good photojournalist, or even just a documentarian, or someone who tells stories visually, you need to know that that your morals always come first when you're taking photos, even in spaces like this. I'm not from Little Village, you know. I can barely speak Spanish. I'm black. I'm not Mexican. I have no Latin heritage at all. So it wasn't a respect to myself. It was a respect to the community, because you know, a part of changing the narrative is changing how you operate when certain stories or certain certain like moments are like